Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So I tweeted out videos I could make, and this was by far the most requested why I don't drink alcohol. Also, real quick, because I cannot talk without gesturing with my hands. So I have a second-degree burn on my fingers right now. Most pain I've ever experienced in my life, but I'm gonna make a story time video about how that happened, but that's just why my hands bandaged right now. It looks super awkward. Why I don't drink alcohol. So my reasoning is not theological at all. There's alcohol all throughout the Bible. Communion is done with wine. Jesus turned water into wine as his first miracle. So I don't have an objective problem with drinking. But for me, because I have bipolar, it turned into this really intense craving, almost turning into an addiction and a dependence, a way to self-medicate, and it scared me so much because I've done a lot of research into bipolar, and alcoholism is highly correlated. Some researchers have even suggested that bipolar and alcoholism are the same illness, and from what I've experienced, oh my gosh, no one can take me seriously, this bandage thing. And for me, with alcohol in the past few years, it's not that I have wanted to drink, but that I need alcohol, which is obscenely unhealthy. A couple nights ago, I was talking with my boyfriend and we were talking about addiction for some reason, and it triggered all of these memories and emotions of what it felt like to crave and need alcohol. And it almost made me start crying because of how bad it was and how scary it was at the time. It was just so strong, trying to fight off these physical urges, feeling controlled by an impulse to cave in and give your body what it is screaming at you that it needs. And this is a year later from when I've ever experienced any of these emotions, impulses, and it still makes me want to cry. This whole story is definitely one of the top 5 darkest things I've experienced with bipolar. And I hope that my story and how I overcame this and became free and completely gave up alcohol will help anyone with bipolar or anyone struggling with a drinking problem. So I never drank alcohol my whole life. My parents don't drink at all. It's just not a part of our family culture. Same with my older sister. Like, my whole family is just not interested in it. So I just was not interested in going to parties in high school. I wasn't even invited to them because people just saw that I wasn't into that. My friends weren't into that. Once I got to college, it was the same. I never went to parties. I wasn't in a sorority, so I wasn't part of Greek life. Pepperdine, the college I went to, is a dry campus, and so we weren't even allowed to have alcohol on our campus. Once I turned 21, I did start casually drinking with my friends. We would go out together or be at someone's house, always off campus, until my problem began. It's really good I had friends who were really positive influence. If I had been super into the whole party lifestyle and drinking in college, it would have triggered my bipolar so much earlier. It would have been a disaster. So the main thing with alcohol that I noticed is that it didn't affect me at all, because I'm already a very impulsive, super happy, extremely emotionally vulnerable person. So alcohol, there was nothing left for it to do. I was already like completely open and no inhibitions, you know? And the reason is because I was hypomanic most of the time. When you're manic, it's as if you're drunk. So that's just something I noticed. My friends would become more open and like happier, and I just wouldn't change at all. It would do nothing to me. And so when I was like sort of hypomanic or in depression, I never craved the alcohol when I would drink. Like, it wasn't a problem at all. But partway through my senior year, I completely went off my antidepressants, and my bipolar started spiking up into this manic state from severe depression every 3 weeks. It would spike up into a really strong mania. And after it spiked up for a day or a few days, it would crash down into the most severe depression. And it was horrible. So what I realized is that if I would drink alcohol when it was in that manic state, it calmed me down and it made me become less manic. And it helped me to sleep as well, because that was the biggest problem. I knew that if I didn't get enough sleep and if I wasn't on a normal sleep schedule, then my depression would get worse. So what I started doing is I bought a huge thing of vodka, raspberry vodka. That was my favorite thing at the time. And also Moscato, I loved. And I would hide the alcohol under my dorm bed. And so remember, we're a dry campus. I was a Christian leader at my school. Like, I led Bible studies for our campus ministry. I had Christian scholarships. I was breaking a really bad school rule. Before I went to bed, I would just chug vodka help me sleep and it would calm me down. It was crazy. If you're ever drinking by yourself, that's such a red flag. And I started realizing after I started doing this, I would start craving to take vodka shots again. Just drink vodka, straight vodka out of the bottle. That's what I was doing. And I think the crazy thing is at the time, you don't realize how bad things are. Only looking back do I realize how screwed up some of the things I've experienced have actually been. And so especially when my bipolar would go up into the like really extreme manic spikes, if I would drink alcohol when that was happening, it would make the crash into depression lessened and not as bad. And I noticed too, one time when I was in depression, I was just like drinking some beer with some of my friends and it made me so happy. My mood was just like not good and I didn't really want to go hang out with my friends, but like right when I went, drinking alcohol made me so happy. But I'd say most of the time, the reason I craved alcohol and was drinking was because of the mania. I was so intense about this that I remember going home for, I think it was Thanksgiving or Christmas break, one of the two. Right when my parents picked me up from the airport, I was like, I need alcohol. I need alcohol. And I told my parents, like, we need to stop right now because I had gone into like the manic state on the airplane and I knew that any moment I would crash into severe depression and the only way to make it not as bad would be to drink alcohol. And I like started crying, like telling my parents like, I need alcohol right now. I'm gonna crash, it's gonna be horrible. Because I was so scared of those severe depression episodes. It was like the total darkness and horrible. And I never got drunk or anything. I would always just have a few drinks at once. So it was never me getting drunk or anything or losing control. It was just, it made me feel normal and it calmed me down when I would drink. And something one of my psychiatrists told me recently, caveat, and then we'll get to the rest of the story of how all this ended. But one of my therapists told me that alcohol and cocaine are really good treatments for bipolar. She said they're extremely effective. Cocaine immediately makes you not depressed. Alcohol immediately makes you less manic. And the reason people with bipolar go to drugs and alcohol is because they actually work and they work immediately. And the problem is that if you're using an actual bipolar medicine, like a mood stabilizer or an antipsychotic, it's non-addictive. But the problem with drugs and alcohol is that they are addictive. And so yes, they work immediately, but then you're reliant on this substance to help you from then on. And the problem with alcohol specifically is it destabilizes your brain. And so yes, it'll make you go less manic within like 20 minutes, but then it's a depressant. Alcohol is a depressant, so it'll make you become more depressed. And so then you might go back to the alcohol to make you feel happy for like an hour, but then it'll make you more depressed. So it's this spiral downward when you're relying on alcohol or a drug, because then you have the withdrawal from it and it's so much worse. So obviously it's so much easier to just spend a month getting on the right psychiatric medicine, and then you just won't even be in a situation where you need drugs or alcohol to make you feel normal, because your bipolar mood stabilizer will make you feel normal and like yourself. So I tried to stop drinking the January of 2016, and I even told my friends never let me drink because I was seeing a psychiatrist, I was back on medicine, but my medicine took forever to kick in, it wasn't working. So sometimes I would drink with my friends, and I remember one time I had the most drink I ever had, and I wasn't really drunk. I don't think I've ever been drunk, but I remember the next day I woke up and I had a depression hangover type thing for like the whole week. Like I was in slight depression for the entire week just because I had alcohol one night. So that's something that I always look back to and remember, that if I drink alcohol, it's literally a depressant and will put me in depression for a week, and it's just not worth it. And so I didn't really drink that much after that, but then I took a gap year off of life this past year. So fall of 2016 and 2017. And in the fall of 2016, I went on my medicine again, and even when I went back on medicine, I was on Lamictal, which is a pretty chill mood stabilizer, and I actually went really manic even on 300 milligrams of Lamictal, which I don't understand why my brain wants to go so manic. It breaks through all the mood stabilizers. And even on antipsychotics, I'm sort of hypomanic right now, like today, I don't get it. But so a year ago, so in the fall, I wasn't medicated and I was waiting for Lamictal to kick in, which takes 2 months. And so when I would feel myself becoming manic, before I would go really, really manic, my body would start craving alcohol so strongly. And I knew it wasn't good for me. And I remember some nights occasionally my mom will use wine for cooking or something. So sometimes there's alcohol in my house. So I would remember at like 2 or 3 in the morning, like going to the kitchen and like opening up all the cabinets and just like scourging and like going to the top cabinets, just like looking if we had any alcohol bottles, wanting it so badly. Sometimes I would be cooking and I would smell a whiff of the vanilla and it smelled so good and I wanted it. And I would be at the grocery store and see the alcohol aisle and just crave. And a lot of times I would be like with other people when that would happen, but there would be some times when I would be so manic and it'd be like 3 a.m. and I would just want to leave my house in the middle of the night and go to a gas station and like buy alcohol. And there were a couple times where I knew I was praying so much that I wouldn't go get alcohol. And so I would go to the store to buy something, but like with really small amount of cash, not even bring my credit card, because I knew if I brought, sorry I'm talking so fast, because I knew if I brought my credit card that I would buy alcohol. There were a couple really close calls where I like almost bought alcohol, but didn't. So what I ended up doing was texting to my best friends in our group text and just saying like, hey, I'm craving alcohol so much right now. Every time it would happen, I just asked them to pray for me to have self-control to resist. A few times I texted them and they prayed for me, and every time I resisted, and the second or third time I asked them to pray for me, it went away. And I never craved alcohol ever again. I totally credit God for this because it was just a cutaway. It was so drastic where I would go from craving so badly. And this year I've been hypomanic a lot of the year, but I never have craved alcohol. The fact that I'm able to live in a household where we have random alcohol, like we have a whole bottle of vodka in the freezer that no one wants. And I've never craved that. I'm able to be around people who are drinking and be totally fine. So I just promised myself to never drink alcohol. I haven't tasted any alcohol since May of 2016. So it's been a year and a half and I'm super proud of myself. A story I want to share real quick as a warning. I recently had a falling out with one of my friends. We're not friends anymore and it ended horribly. I was so sad and scared at the time when it happened a few months ago, but she has depression and wasn't treating it. And so instead of getting on medicine or trying to work out or get on a normal sleep schedule or anything, she would drink alcohol every single night. She would make herself several drinks. She would sleep in late and get really angry sometimes. It was a way to mask her depression, so she would feel depressed but then be so happy when she was drinking. It created a huge rift between her and I and some of our other friends. Her alcohol problem and using alcohol as a way to mask her mental illness rather than actually treating it ruined our relationship. Alcohol is a depressant, so it will make you more depressed long term. It destabilizes your brain. It's a horrible idea. Instead, just go on medicine and it will lift your depression. It will block you from going into mania. Another story of when I just realized it was really bad. One time I went off some of my mood stabilizers because I just was getting so behind in my classes, and I knew if I could go manic, I could get a ton of work done all at once. And I did get a ton of work done, but then it went up into this really high mania, and it was like a bad mania. Usually mania feels really happy and amazing and life is perfect, but it got to this I don't even know how to describe it, but it was so scary and too much and like thoughts stacking up onto each other. And so I remember going to my best friend's house and a lot of people were over. Not a lot of people, but like 5 of my friends. I just went in and I'm like, I need alcohol, begging them to give me alcohol. And it was so scary to them. And I remember like opening up their fridge and like pulling out a bottle of Jack Daniels and them like staring at me being terrified and taking it out of my hand and then me sobbing and crying. And what actually happened is they just talked to me and held me, and it made me feel calm just listening to someone talk and being held, and that helped me to sleep, just breathing slowly and talking quietly. And that helped me be more chill rather than the alcohol. It really did work. And I remember one of my best friends, he asked me, are you on your medicine? And I lied and said I was, even though I was off one of them. But that was just one of the experiences that kind of not scarred, but it stuck with some of my friends. It kind of triggered memories in one of my friends of his girlfriend who was suicidal. All I'm saying is moments like that are not memories I want my friends to have of me. So that is the whole story. I kind of caught it before it got really bad. I was never getting drunk. I was never drinking so much that I was hurting other people or getting angry, but it was something I used to self-medicate, treat my bipolar when I was choosing to not be on medicine. That was the main thing. I wasn't on medicine, and that's why I started going to alcohol. My brain figured out, wow, this works really well. I like doing this. It makes me feel normal. All the articles I read talking about alcoholism terrified me. And a lot of people I know who know someone who's bipolar, a lot of the stories they share are that the person went to alcohol so much. And also people who have depression, they go to alcohol so much, and it just creates these bad memories in the minds of the people who love them. So my advice is to completely cut it off, to pray and pray and pray. That helps me so much. Tell people in your life that you don't want to drink, and be really intense and say, I never want to drink. And then your friends will physically take alcohol bottles out of your hands and get on medicine, go to a therapist every week. You will be able to stay accountable to them, work out every day, get enough sleep, stay on medicine, take your medicine, go on more medicine if you need to, and that will prevent you from wanting to go to alcohol and drugs instead. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!